Welcome to the Florida Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast, where we interview the best and the brightest business and real estate leaders. Our mission is to inspire and help 1,000 entrepreneurs to start and succeed in real estate and entrepreneurship. We will give you the exact playbook to succeed in your business through the experience of those who blaze the path. We're bringing the what's working today directly to you. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Florida Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast. I've got an awesome guest today, my friend with two first names, Nicholas, Nich.
Hey.
Nicholas, man, I'm
guys?
so pumped to have you. If you guys don't know Nicholas already, which you probably do because he's awesome, he runs a company called Lead Mining Pros. They do all kinds of awesome marketing stuff for tons of entrepreneurs in the real estate space. He's a great business owner. He's a fantastic human. And I'm grateful to have you here today, man.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here. I was very happy when you reached out.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's just catch everybody up to speed. You're in the real estate space. You know, how did you get into the real estate space? What's your journey been, and where are you at today with your awesome company?
Awesome. Yeah. So basically, I was a restaurant manager for 13 years. Started off in that field, did that for a while. Then what I ended up doing is I ended up leaving that industry. You know, after 13 years, I realized that I was a different breed than the average miserable person around me. And, I remember I called it running out of role models, if anyone can relate to that. You know, I was looking at my boss. He was a grumpy dick. I was looking at his boss. He was a grumpier dick. And I was like, why would I ever want to be these people? You know, is something that I told myself. And I realized that their life wasn't anything I desired at all, right? And so that's when I decided to quit. So I left the restaurant industry, but, when I first left, I really hated myself for a long time. How could I spend 13 years doing this? I wasted so much time, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until after I was gone for 4 years that I realized that my restaurant career absolutely taught me everything that I could have ever imagined. So then after I left there, I ended up getting a job at a real estate education company. Okay, some of you guys may have heard of it. It's called Clever Investor. I worked for Clever Investor felt like 9 years ago now. But I worked for them when I was 30. So yeah, exactly 9 years ago. And I started with them as kind of like an executive assistant. I didn't know what the hell they did. I went from flipping burgers and they're talking about flipping houses. I never knew real estate as a business. I only knew real estate as a place to live up until that point, right? Like maybe many of us have when this journey got started. So I was like, what do? We give entrepreneurs therapy? Like, what's this mentoring thing? I was so ignorant to all of it. My father taught me to be a blue collar guy. Restaurants, I think, is very blue collar, to be honest with you. And so I didn't even understand this white collar approach to life, whatsoever. So, I get hired at Clever. 10 months goes by. I get 3 promotions and I end up becoming an executive over their entire mentorship department. Now, not sales. A lot of people think I come from sales because I might be smooth or charismatic or thing. I was never a sales guy ever in my life. I've always been a service guy. Restaurants are service. And then this job, I was there like director of fulfillment. So I made sure that all the students were getting what they were promised, that everybody was happy, right? It was so in my wheelhouse coming from restaurants. So I did that for like 2 years. I ended up really changing their program in a huge way, reduced refunds, made sure customer satisfaction was through the roof. And one of the things I did there that led me to where I am today was people were struggling with direct mail. And they were coming into this coaching program that's expensive. And then they were asked to spend $5,000 to $10,000 in direct mail. And I like direct mail, but direct mail is like blackjack, right? Sometimes you can sit down and you can lose and lose and lose. And then sometimes you can sit down and you win.
Can we talk about that real quick? Because, a couple of things. Number one, our real estate company is called Blackjack. And number two, we've sent millions of pieces of direct mail since 2015. It has been a mainstay in one of our primary marketing channels. But you're right. It's very expensive and it takes a lot of time. And I want to note one other thing too, before you tell the rest of the story, because you and I met at an event in Florida. And you are you are definitely a connector. Like, we didn't know each other. We probably, like, I knew who you were, but we didn't know each other. We connected, we're like talking, we talk about your service. We're chopping it up about results, things like that. So like you do connect really fluidly, and it would appear probably to most like, gosh, I bet Nick's like a great sales guy because you are such a good service guy. You appear to genuinely care about people, which I think is half the battle in business in the first place. So yeah, but direct mail is hard if you don't have a big budget and you can't do it consistently over time. And then all the sales activity that it requires afterwards, right? Because it's not just send direct mail and get a deal. It's send direct mail, answer the calls, ask the right questions, qualify the leads, follow up with the leads, know how to do sales. Like, there's a whole component after you spend that money to convert that into real dollars. And you're right. It's challenging for people. So I imagine you're looking at that going, I see why you're frustrated.
Right. And to your point, when you're too new, in my honest opinion, direct mail is a little too skillless. And what I mean by that is there's nothing you can frickin' do to improve your results. You pay, the mail goes out, you wait by your phone, right? And when you're new, it's incredibly nerve-wracking. If you actually talk to your people, did I put the right phone number on? Did the mail even go out yet? Why isn't the phone ringing? What's happening? Is my phone silenced? I missed the call. There's so much stress that's coordinated with that because there's not a lot of skill you can intervene. One thing I liked about cold calling, so to resume a little bit, I was seeing these students get defeat in their eyes. Actually, I'll tell you what happened. A girl called me crying. And she said, Nich, I just spent my last $3,000 on direct mail and my phone didn't even ring once.
Wow.
And it really broke my heart. Our program was almost half my salary at the time. So when someone called me, don't forget, I just got done selling $9 burgers for 13 years, right? So now these things are like $20,000, $30,000, and I'm taking this very seriously, okay? At this point in my life, I never had more than $3,000 in my bank account. Okay. Just so you know. So when someone makes financial complaints to me, it hit me. I wasn't like now I'm very well off. So if someone said things like that to me, it hit me differently. Right. But back then when I'm with them, it really hit me hard. So, I'll never forget that woman. She's actually a customer of mine today, 7 years later. True story, which is really cool. She actually called me up and I gave her a free package. I was like, you inspired this company. Oh, it was awesome. Her name's Stacy Wells. Stacy, I appreciate you. But yeah, so I just realized that there was a lot of second guessing and it was a lot of money for a new person too. So at Clever specifically, and again, I have no entrepreneurial background. I'm a guerrilla guy. Restaurants are so guerrilla warfare, right? Like everything, if I want the thing turned, I got to turn it. And I was like, what's free? What's free? What is free? And then it hit me that we're all already paying Verizon. Okay. And with Verizon, it's like, we're already paying these guys. Let's go ahead and just use it. So I was actually teaching everyone to dial by hand. Okay. Because it's free. Right. And it's like the rule was if you got money, do direct mail. If you don't have a lot of money, you need to be cold calling. Right. Yeah. So I started teaching this to the entire student body. It blew up because a lot of people didn't have a lot of money. So now it gave them something to do rather than wait by the phone.
What's the time frame of this?
So I started with Clever. I believe I was 31. So this was 8 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So you're at the forefront of like before cold calling blows up and gets saturated. You're kind of at the forefront of this with these guys.
Yeah. Well, and more things I didn't understand, but you're exactly right. At the time, I didn't realize that I was being innovative, right? I'm just looking for a free solution because I don't want customers to call me upset anymore. I'm an executive. I gotta make customers happy. Like that's my only goal here. But you're exactly right. So we started throwing whole events that were based around cold calling that used to be based around direct mail. And it was great for the students because now there's no additional expense required on their part. It's just time. So that worked out really well. So when my time at Clever came to an end, naturally I went home and I was like, dude, cold calling works. I've never made a call myself yet. I've only been advising them to do it. Right. But I was like, now's my time to shine. So the true story was when I started weaning off of clever, I requested to work from home. And a part of my deal on working from home was I'm going to be a real estate investor. So I'm going to go live on Facebook every day and cold call live in front of the entire community. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So every day for an hour a day, I'm just calling. And I've got the perfect gusto for that, right? Like that's totally my mojo. And so I call every day. And then a month in, people start calling out, hey, man, I see you're calling. You think you could call for me? Hey, man, could I pay you to call for me? And before I knew it, I had like 3 clients, And I was like, okay, yeah, you can pay me. I call the owner of Clever and I ask him his permission. I tell him what's going on. I'm not trying to do anything. But I was like, hey, they want me to call, blah, blah, blah. And that was the beginning. I didn't even realize that was the beginning of lead mining. And then one day, I'm a very competitive person. So one day I log into a wholesaling Facebook group and I see this Filipino advertising their call center with broken English, right? And I'm like, Nick, are you going to let this person out market you right now, bro? Like, I've never even marketed anything. So I type up this post. It must have been written by God himself because it went viral. And on that post, I got 287 comments of people that were interested and like 350 likes. And it was awesome. But one of my big differentiators that caught everyone's attention was we're all American. Okay, there's no foreign callers, there's no Filipinos, it's 100% American, at least at that time. I did add foreign callers later as an option because some people just want them, but I think that was really the big attractor. So after I made that post, the next day I signed up 20 clients and then I resigned from my job literally in the same day. I probably should have waited a couple weeks, but I literally resigned immediately, which was cool. And then that was the start of this business. And to this day, this business never has done less than $7,000 a week in sales. And my first 6 months, we did $370,000 in sales.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, and I think what's important about that too is you don't have that kind of growth unless the hard part about what the business you're doing, right? Like you're still in the service business.
Right.
You're providing a service to somebody and you need a happy client. And the only way to get a happy client in what you do is to provide leads that ultimately end up converting into money and revenue for your client, which is hard because you don't actually control the sales part of any of your clients' funnel. And I know you do some things to help even train people who use your service because you want them to win so badly, which I think is super powerful. But that's a tough business. People think that, the lead providing businesses are easy. It's maybe easy for them to get the leads because they know what they're doing, but it's hard for them to not be able to control their clients' results. But that's what their whole reputation is hung on, right? So but you don't grow like that if you're not getting results. So I mean, I'm imagining at this time, you're like on the precipice of the upswing in the real estate market, which is going to go bananas for the next 10 years. And you're doing something that probably not saturated yet, doesn't really get saturated till like 2019. And then everybody's like in that community doing cold calling at scale. And wow, man, that's just incredible. So talk to me about that. Like your clients must have been getting results. So you're running this cold call operation. You're getting leads to your clients probably at a good clip. And what was that like? Like, were they like getting results, or how were you dealing with the ones who weren't getting results at that time before you kind of had it figured out? What did that look like?
So, one of my first clients ever actually just called me last week and hired me again. It's crazy that someone's been following me for 8 years, 7 years, and he came back. And I'll never forget what he said, because one of the things, since I'm a service guy, not a sales guy, I talk about KPIs. I talk about results. I don't tell you you're going to get tons of closed deals. I tell you that we're going to make the calls, and on average, here's how many leads we get when we make this many calls. And on average, here's how many deals my clients close if they get this many leads, right? So I'm really in the numbers, right? I'm not in the hope. Right. So I think one thing I do is I don't sell hope, I sell reality. And I think that's helped a lot. And I'll never forget, I even told that when he came back and bought again last week, I said to him, you said something to me that I still tell people to today. And his name is Maurice Waller. And he calls me up and he says, he hires me and he goes, Nick, and he calls me afterward. Nick, man, I'll tell you, dude, I did not close a deal, bro. But you know what? You did exactly what you told me you were going to do. You called people, you got leads, you sent them over. I'll tell you, that's a huge compliment. And so I think Back then, I didn't have as many amazing systems. So now I meet with clients weekly on a one-on-one level. I have group coaching that's completely free where I teach them how to convert leads in a group coaching call. And I have like free courses now. Back then, I just had amazing customer service and always answered my cell phone. Okay.
Yeah. which is obviously, for you probably actually love doing that because you're being a service guy. Like you want people to win and it's cool that they're paying you money to provide the service. Right. But you can't scale that. You hit ceilings in your own business. I'm really curious as you did start to scale because now people want to use your service. They're like, Nich is providing leads. He's doing what he says he's going to do. They want to use your service. And you want to bring on more clients, but you're like, I can't provide the level of service I want. How does that transition go? How do you create scale in your company? And then how do you keep the level of service that you can personally provide to people because of how awesome you are?
All right. Well, now my answer is going to be a little crazy here because I do still answer all my own phone calls. I do still meet with clients one-on-one. But I think it's important to have a lot of the things that I have. I have systems everywhere, right? And a lot of people, they go, how do you do it? Oh my God, this is crazy. And especially in the mastermind I met you in, because a lot of people I don't even want to say, I would not call what I do working hard. I worked hard to create systems that allow my life to be easy, right? That's what I've done. I'm kind of a systems expert, to have a cold calling team of 15 Americans and 35 employees, you better be a systems expert because things are going to get ugly. But,
definitely.
I don't really feel like I ever bottlenecked, to be honest with you, but it's only because as I got free time, I took it up with more time. So I'll give you an example. I used to never even let clients book calls with me. I used to only have my cell phone number on the website. Now, I actually love that. And the reason is a spontaneous call is always shorter than a scheduled call.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
So like when someone's like, hey, how's it going? Hey, I used to celebrate. Oh, 4-minute call. Woo! I'm off the phone. And not that I'm rushing them off the phone, but it's important to know how long this takes us. Then after a while, I moved to book a call or call immediately. Okay, so you could book a call, fill up my calendar, which I hated at first because I was so free for the first 3 years. I'm like traveling the country. All I have to do is answer my phone when it rings. Now I got to be like sitting down and like somewhere and stuff. So then I switched to book a call, which was really cool. But I still love, to this day, you can book a call or call me immediately. And it's really been really amazing to let my life be ran by a calendar. Now, I can block off the calendar and I can go do my thing, and I'll always still answer. If I was just in Phoenix for 9 days, I'll always answer if the phone's ringing, to be honest with you. So my scalability improved with systems, and then a lot of the things we talked about, the courses. So a lot of people call me and they'll ask me questions and I'll say like, look, I'm going to give you the short answer now, but I have a free course online that goes deep, right? And I think little tricks like that save me a lot of time too. So I've kind of just figured out this amazing service way where I feel like I'm everywhere, but it's not really that busy anymore,
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm going to ask you a question. You probably don't get asked this a lot. I think it's really important to talk about this being a service provider. I want to know two things. I want you to tell me about like your worst client experience and what made, you don't have to say who it is, obviously, but what made them a bad client? Because I wish, I see this all the time. Like I'm super reserved when it comes to recommending a service company, even if I have really good success with them personally, because we're just different and I take it very seriously. Like if I recommend your company and it's because I use them, it's because I get results. But I also, I look at it two ways. Like number one, like I'm recommending to Nicholas to use his amazing Lead Mining Pro service. And I'm confident that he'll do well because he's done well for me and what he provides. But I'm also looking at the client I recommend. Sometimes they're jerks and they don't understand and they're prickly and they're just more of a problem. They're not even worth the money they're paying to that company. And I see that happen sometimes. It can be frustrating in both ways. So tell me about the worst client, what made them the worst client. And then I want to talk about like what makes a good client, what makes a good client, because that's just as important as you providing the good service that you provide.
So I'll start by saying this. To this day, I have the best clients in the world. If you ever hear my recordings, they come in happy, they are happy, they leave happy. Now, okay. In the beginning, I think, right now everyone's referred. Like we have like no marketing. So everyone's like, hey, I heard you crushed it for Billy, right? So that, first of all, that helps a lot now,
That's
right?
the best marketing.
Yeah,
That's the best marketing.
Absolutely. My marketing budget's less than 1% of my total sales, just so you know. So it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. But so I'll go back in time for the story, okay? Because I don't have any difficult customers anymore. Thank God. And I'm not even kidding. I really don't. I'm the luckiest entrepreneur alive. We don't even refund. I have like no refunds. It doesn't even exist. But there's a couple of them. One is the skeptic, okay? And I respect the skeptic because I know there's a lot of scam companies out there. Right. So I think it's important to have a healthy level of skepticism, but you have to be ready to be proven wrong. Right. You can't just keep the skepticism. So one is the skeptic. The good news is when people get me on the phone, they know I kill all skepticism. Holy crap, you answered? Oh my God, you're the owner? Wow. Like, so that kind of helps a lot. But skeptical people, or better word, pessimistic, which is even worse than pessimistic, means it's a habit to be negative, right? So the pessimist is absolutely the worst customer. I can tell you that no one's ever called me and been extremely pessimistic and then closed deals ever in a million years. Okay. Because they can't. If you think I suck and you hire me, then you think all my leads suck. And guess what? If you think the leads suck, you're right. That's one of my famous sayings, right? Like if you think they suck, you're right. If you think they're great, you're right. So it's really up to you how you feel about these things. So that's number one. Number two is my biggest client ever when I was younger was the biggest jerk I've ever encountered. And his name was Lex. And I really hated him. And he came to me and he's like, I got a lot of money. I'm going to pay you a lot, but here's how I want to pay you. I want to pay you. And I don't do this at all. And I've never done this before this guy. And I've never done it after this guy. I'm going to pay you half for the week up front. And at the end of the week, I'll pay you the rest. And like at the time it was so much money and I was so green. I was like, it's money. We're good. But then what Lex was, he was in like Las Vegas, right? So results aren't great out there. So every week, he took his results as an opportunity to negotiate my pay with him, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to pay you this. But he was my biggest client when he paid. Okay. It's probably a better way to put it. But so, and I don't deal with that. I'm a big integrity person. We come up with the deal. We do the deal. That's how it works. Right. So I ended up firing Lex. Like 4 weeks in, and that was tough. Like, I don't know if you've ever fired someone giving you $1,000 a week when that's like 20% of your total sales, right? Or like 15% of your total sales. I was scared, I was scared to make the move. I was scared to make the jump. And I think to this day, he owes me $700. It's like, I fired him with the deficit.
Collections.
Yeah. I was like, I told him the truth. I said, Lex, you're attacking me, but I don't think we suck. I think you're just trying to pay me less. So you're using the attack to try to make me think I suck to then try to pay me less, right? It was just like a narcissistic play is what was happening. He was just trying to manipulate me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what you're doing is you're really lowering my confidence really early in this entrepreneur game. And that lowered confidence is actually costing more than the money you're giving me. This is exactly what I said to him. And then I let him go. So that was probably the most difficult of them. But, in short, and I've never come across another person like him since. He definitely had a huge dose of narcissism, thought he was a huge deal. And then right after he left us, he created his competitor of my company, which of course went out of business soon after. The best part
Isn't
about
that how it goes? That's how it goes, right?
Well, being in business 7 years, I've seen companies come and go. I mean, they're everywhere. Some of them are even in the mastermind with us. They start up a cold calling company, they stop, they do this. So it's kind of been interesting to see. And now to flip it, what's the best customer? Right? I can tell you right now, the best customers are the optimistic ones. This is a true story. I had a girl call me up. And she goes, Nich, I know this is going to work because my mentor told me about this and he only tells me about things that work. Okay. This woman called me. She paid us $1,000. She called me 3 days later. Nich, I closed the deal. I was like, you closed it? She goes, yeah. The very first day I got a lead. I called them up. I put it under contract. I just sold it to a buyer on Monday.
Wow.
And it's like she made it was in Indiana, in Muncie, Indiana, really small market. She only made $3,000, but it was like her first day.
And 3 extra marketing spend though.
On her first lead at that, right? And then of course a lot more came. And so I love that story because it shows the difference between optimism and pessimism, right? And if you hire me and you know this is going to work, and I can give you that confidence on a phone call with me or when you see my courses or my group coaching, right? When you have that confidence, that is exactly what's going to happen. You're going to get what you're looking for, which cut to, this is why I have the courses, the free coaching, and the one-on-one calls. Because what I've learned, if you know you're supported, you automatically take more action. You know what?
Yeah.
Nick's got my back. I'm good. I know I can call him if I need anything, and so that's what I do now. So I proactively dose them with optimism by supporting the shit out of them. And it's kind of been this, which I think this is why we're in this rocket to the heavens when it comes to our success recently.
Yeah, and I know you're crushing it today. There's two fundamental things in there. And one of them, another way to look at the optimism is just straight up belief. There's a quote that's similar to what you said. It's like, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And belief is such a powerful psychological thing. You're way more likely to succeed if you believe you can succeed. That's like part of the optimism. That lady that called you genuinely believed. There wasn't a doubt that she could close. These are going to be good leads. I'm going to close them, rather than these are cold call leads. I've heard that they suck. Like, your attitude, especially when you're doing sales, and if you're doing direct to seller marketing, you're a marketing and sales company. You're in sales. Your mindset is just as important as your skill. If you're going in not believing or going, if I go into a lead, I read it, I look at it first, I'm like, I don't know, it's not a great property, probably not going to make money on it. Well, guess what? I'm probably not going to get that sale. So belief is incredibly, incredibly important. With belief comes that action, like she's just diving in and taking the action, and then she's getting a result, which is feeding into what she believes her potential is. Now she's even more optimistic. Her likelihood to continue to close deals goes up. Now, when she hits the inevitable, like, dry spell, like, I hit 10 bad leads in a row, which, by the way, happens in every marketing channel. Could happen in PPC, right? Like, you're just going to get leads that are not going to convert. That's reality. The best marketing channels in the world might convert at 1 in 12, right? 1 in 8 on a good stretch, like the best in the world. So, like, you got to know that that's part of it. So when you have that belief, that optimism, you get the result, you see more potential, and you hit that bad stretch, your ability to move through that bad stretch and keep going, which is half of the battle, and stick it out to get to those next deals and continue to produce that result, goes way up. And it's just a better way to be. That's such a good way to put a good client versus a challenging client, like those who have belief, those who are optimistic, those who are, because that's going to they're going to be willing to do the work, right? Because at the end of this, like, you still have to do the work, right? Well, it does not work if you do not work.
Well, and, because I offer weekly one-on-ones to clients, here's what I do. I cover all their stats with them live. I then tell them how other campaigns went that we did, so they don't feel like they're in a bubble. And I always ask them, but you tell me, how did those calls go? And I can tell, Nick, man, I didn't call any of them, bro. And it's so interesting. So when you talk about, belief and confidence lead to action, right? I think that's a big part of it. And that's why my system, I think there's a lot of accidental genius to it. I just created it because I'm such a service guy, but, to give them the confidence, to give them the leads. And then to your point about 1 in 10, I tell clients all the time, I'm a big math nerd, so I'm really good at that. But I tell them, Nick, I got 12 leads. They all sucked. I go, yeah, just so you know, my clients report 1 in 12 to 20 leads close, which means that 1 in 11 to 19 don't. Okay. So then I tell them,
Nick, I'd say the other part of that is, cause that's dangerous, right? Like, I can tell you to a T in our real estate business, how many leads per marketing channel that we close, but I don't get 10 leads and then that 10th one closes. Those 10 leads, and then leads keep coming in after them. Those 10 leads are being followed up with. I can tell you, on average, a lead is in my CRM for 59 days before we sign a contract.
Wow. That's great info. Okay.
And those 10 leads came in the first, I had 10 leads yesterday. Right. So those 10 leads came in, but I know that I don't get a conversion for 59 to 60 days. And I definitely don't get a conversion if I don't do the follow up. Right. So it's not that Nich gives you 10, 20, 30, 40 leads and like, you're like, boom, I'm knocking down 2-3 contracts. It's Nich gives you 10, 20, 30 leads. There are going to be 3 deals in there or 2 deals in there. It is up to you to do the follow up and have the conversations and convert that into a contract. So it's not as black and white, but I guarantee if you look at your leads on paper and the quality product you're providing, like on average 1 in 12 to 20 is kind of what you're seeing across the board. That's fact. Yeah. Like that is true. Those leads get closed. Somebody is closing those leads. Why not you?
Well, and that's exactly, so one thing I try to tell my clients is your goal is to get to 20. Right? That's your first goal. Get to 20. And I like all these mindset tricks. And so what I tell my clients is get to 20. And then if you don't have a contract, you miss something. And that's not a judgment. I'm not saying you missed something. I'm saying that you may have discarded, you may have thought that lead wasn't hot and didn't even call them at all. You may have not followed up with somebody, right? So all these things could be happening with this lead. And I tell them that when you hire me and you work leads, you're like a detective hunting for a serial killer. Okay. You've got your pin board up. You've got all the leads up there. You've got wires all over the place connecting all the clues. And it's very important. That's why whenever we get to 20 and we don't have a contract, we got to go back through all the clues. What did we miss? Right. And I love that attitude because it just helps pivot away from, well, just get me 20 more leads. Look, I'll get you 20 more leads. But if you treat those 20 the way you treated these 20, it's
You're
not going to
be
change.
Over 40. Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, it's cool. Even having this talk, I realize I don't want to say I'm like a coach, but I am like a sports coach, right? Like, come on, Jimmy, get back up. Oh, my hamstring's tight. Stretch it out, Jimmy. Stretch out the hamstring, and so.
Stretch out the hamstring.
Right. No, I really just had that epiphany. It's like, it's not like coaching, like lecturing, right? It's coaching like you're on the field. You went to go kick a goal and I'm helping improve your technique in that kick.
And I think what's really powerful about that is you're saddling with these guys, you're looking at their numbers, and you have this incredible luxury of having clients across the nation, different markets. You're seeing what they're doing. You're understanding results from different businesses. So it's kind of the law of averages, right? Like you kind of know what it should be on average. Now, some people are going to be way better. I'm sure you have clients who are just savages. They're doing great. And I think you probably have some who are like, okay. And then you have some who are still learning. They're like, I don't know. It's not working for me. And you're coaching them up. You're like, no, stretch it out, stretch the hammy, get in there. Look at this, look at that, look at this. And that's an extremely valuable piece of that service. Nich, let's pivot a little bit because I want to talk about Lead Mining Pros today. Like, what is Lead Mining Pros? I know I've looked at all your stuff. You offer all these really cool packages. Like, what do you offer to clients? What do they get? Like, what do people love? What's your best product that people do the best with? Like, what is like, if you got to give a 30-second elevator pitch or actually a 2 to 5 minute elevator pitch on Lead Mining Pros, and what do I get? What are the services? Let's hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'll tell just a little short story first before I get in there. So when I was a kid, my father used to buy electronics and he would just hand them to me. Nich, set it up. Right. My father didn't want to hook up the TV. He wanted to watch the TV. He didn't want to hook up the stereo. He wanted to listen to music. So when you think about what I do for my clients, I literally do the same thing 8-year-old Nich used to do for my dad. And you bring me your business and you're like, I want to close deals here. And so then I generate the leads. I connect all these dots for you. So that being said, we offer 5 things to every single client. Okay. I can pull a list in any market in America, land or houses, doesn't matter. I have great list sources for both of those. I then offer skip tracing. Okay. The skip tracing is incredibly accurate. We get the right person on the phone over 85% of the time. And we can prove that to you with every campaign that we run because we track those metrics with every campaign. Then I offer American cold callers where we call everyone up to 3 times if they don't answer. And if they do answer, we ask them if they own the property and ever considered selling. And then if they say yes, then we ask them 12 qualifying questions and send them over to you the second second it's generated. Then we text message everybody. And then anyone who replies positively, we keep replying on your behalf for free. So the text messaging isn't like per text. Like, oh, how much per text? No, it's per conversation. I'm not a big fan of nickel and diming. I don't want to be like, we sent 4,000 for Billy. Send him an invoice. Like that's too much administrative work. But so I'm a big fan of less administrative work. So we do all these things. And then at the end of every week, you get invited to a one-on-one call with me. It's optional. You don't have to take it. I recommend everyone take it at least once or twice. So you just get a feel for what I would say. And so it's like that is everything that, we offer as a whole. And that's why I say it's like that stereo. You don't have to run the wires. You don't have to, what script do I use? We got it. Who's going to do the calls? We got it. What software do you use? I got it. I got it all. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do, I tell every client this, is have a great attitude and call the leads. That's it. Yeah. That's the only thing required of you.
Call the leads, man. That's half the battle.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But that's kind of our pitch. And on top of that, we're no contracts, no commitments, no setup fees. So everyone that comes to us, everything's pay as you go. There's no huge package, and you may have seen I offer everything in 4 different sizes too, which I think is brilliant because I've got like a $550 package. I've got a $1,000 package. I've got a $1,500 package and a $7,000 package. So no matter what your budget is, I can fit in there. And in some cases, even let's think about the 550 real quick. That's 1 month of a dialer and 1 employee, no list, no skip, no training. So like, even if you were to take it on yourself, in some cases, it's like, wow, this would be like my overhead alone would equal 550 if I was to do this myself. So there's some really cool benefits. And on top of that, you get real Americans. And one thing we've learned as of late, because we offer both American and foreign, I'm actually just about to can the foreign team. And it's just because A, there's not a lot of sales coming in, and B, the results are so drastic. Where we're at nowadays with Facebook scams and internet scams, when people are hearing a foreign person on the phone, I don't think so. They're just hanging up the phone. I think scam culture is getting way too prevalent for the foreign culture, I think, to keep ringing throughout our industry, to be completely honest.
Certainly a challenge. Yeah. And that's such an incredible product. What I love is that you're meeting investors where they are. You've got a product for that new person who's on a really tight budget, is committed to this industry and, needs to generate leads. They're the literal oxygen of your business. You cannot survive without leads, and you're meeting them where they are with a package that makes a lot of sense for them. And you can also service bigger clients who want to add that campaign to their omnipresent marketing stuff, like people like us. We want to hit everybody from all channels so we can use your service. I think that's incredible. I'm curious, are you doing any work for real estate agents? We get a lot of real estate agents on this podcast and that would listen to this podcast. What are you doing for real estate agents?
So real estate agents, I do the same thing for both. And what I mean by that is, A, we can definitely help agents get listings, big time. But just like the investors that want to throw away retail leads, I say, go get a realtor. And the realtors that get investor leads, I'm like, you need to find an investor, right? So it's like, we're going to get both no matter what, is what I always tell people. So I have this amazing ninja line for every realtor watching. And you don't just use it on our leads, use it on every lead you ever get from now until the end of time, only if you're a realtor. This doesn't work for investors unless you're a realtor investor. Okay. But I'm going to give you guys the most ninja ass one-liner. Okay. I'll get started. So we send you a lead. Our employee's name is in the notes. So then you call the lead and you say, hey, yeah, you just spoke to Sherry about 123 Sycamore Street. Oh, yeah, sure did. Oh, great. Well, Sherry told me you may be interested in selling, but why don't you tell me, how did you plan on doing that? That's super ninja. So I know it's only one sentence. I know realtors are like, why have I never thought of that? What happens is with all sales processes, no matter what industry you're in, we blow a sale because we think we know what they're thinking.
The worst. That's the word. Yeah. Never make assumptions.
Right. Let this person tell you, Sally up the street sold at 4 times market value. I want to be like Sally. Okay, great. That's a listing. right? Oh, the upstairs bathroom, every time I flush it, the house floods. That's an investor lead. Okay. Yeah. Right. So that now as a realtor, you know how to show up. Now you can literally convert the lead, but you cannot convert a lead if you do not know where they're coming from. So that advice will let you know where they're coming from, and then you can pick up the ball and run with it. So that's my line for realtors to get them really successful using our service. And I probably got about 5 across the country that like stick with us religiously. A lot of people are transient, but we're definitely blowing it up in the realtor space, especially as of late. I noticed with this new buyer law that's gone into play that I don't even know what it's called, but how the buyers, they can't get
it was a $1 billion plus lawsuit that happened against the National Association of Realtors, for everybody listening, that basically disputed the buyer's agent getting commissions out of the seller's proceeds. They felt like there was some misalignment there, and there was a big change that's happening. It's actually going into effect in June and July. Wow. Wholesale, which really not a lot has changed. What has changed is the real estate agents have to be more skilled. So for those who are going to get a buyer, they have to talk about the value proposition of why either the buyer has to pay their 2 to 3% commissions or whatever they negotiate, or they've got to allow them to negotiate it in with the seller, and they have to sign buyer brokerage agreements. So it's just like a added step for them.
Wow, that's interesting. So there's like a buyer listing agent now. It's like a buyer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the buyer's agents, which historically, you become my buyer, I'm finding you a house, and we know that the seller's paying my commissions. You're not even paying for me. See, because the thing is when a person's buying a house, and you know this, they saved up enough money to put a down payment on that house. Very seldomly do buyers have discretionary funds on top of the biggest purchase they've ever made in their life. Like, they saved up to do that, and now you want to add another 3% commission on a $500,000 house, and it's just too much money. It doesn't make sense for buyers, for a lot of buyers, but some it does, and it's just a different game. The game has changed. It's still fine. The game still works for agents, but you're right that the second order effect of that in how it probably you're seeing it in your business is some of those buyers agents who are like, I don't want to adapt to that. I'll just focus on listings. So I need to go direct to consumer to acquire more listings, which is where your service would come in and be a great asset.
I really appreciate you explaining that whole thing, because I have 2 huge realtors that just bought really big packages, and they are actually going after investor leads. Like, we can definitely get them more money than an investor could. So why don't we so it's going to be interesting, I think. And I thought, and they actually both work for Remax, but they don't know each other. And I was like, whatever Remax is telling you guys, I love it, because I've got 2 huge orders in. And I think it's interesting. This is good. This is probably right on the precipice of it happening. And I think what we're saying is, not that we want to scare anyone, but we're about to have to start competing with realtors, because they are now going to be entering in the listing game market at a much higher level, where the newbies were maybe searching for buyers. So it's been interesting to see these 2 big clients come in. This is just in the last 9 days. Just so you know, too. So I am starting to see the ecosystem change a little bit there.
Yeah, you can totally expect the agents now to look at more outbound lead channels. Like they need to be prospecting direct to consumer for listings. Yeah. It's a bigger opportunity for them now than it has been in the past. So you're going to see that. Yeah, you're definitely going to see an increase there, which in effect for us investors, there'll be somebody else in the game. Right. There's somebody else in the game that you're competing with. So to me, if you're an investor, something that we've been doing for 1.5 years now is we're licensed. We go into every appointment with multiple options for the seller. There is no reason a seller should not use us, period. If they want to list it, they can list it. If they are kind of somewhere in the middle, we can do innovation with them. If it's just a pure listing, it's a great house, they want to get the most money, we get the listing for them. We refer it out to our agents that we work with, but we are also licensed for that very specific reason. We want to have all options. And if you're an investor, you need to have options available to you. Get focused in on, if you're a wholesaler or you're a flipper, getting your leads tight. And then the ones that you're not going to be able to get a cash offer on, flip it, wholesale, whatever, you need to be be working with other agents to at least be getting referral checks into your business, because you're paying for those leads. You might as well figure out how to monetize them.
And it's so funny. I've actually been saying that since day one too. It's like, even if you give it to a realtor and they list it, and even if they don't give you any money, you still have goodwill in the marketplace. Even if they don't list it, you're like, that guy gave me a free lead. Let me try to give him a free lead. So it's like this energetic thing exchanges. And one thing I tell all my clients, which not too much anymore because it's all kind of built into my flow, but it is, if your only strategy is buy low, sell high, I probably wouldn't hire me, right? And it's not because I'm not going to get you a deal, but it's because if you're just a one-trick pony, if I send you 20 leads, you're going to drastically cut down your opportunity for close. But if you're working novations, listings, buy low, sell high, and creative finance, bro, like you have 400% chance to close every deal now, as opposed to just the buy low, sell high. So to your point, I preach the exact thing in my courses. I touch, I'm not a super expert, but I touch on all these opportunities and what I would suggest, we say to them to get the conversation. But you're 100% right. If we need to be Swiss Army knives whenever we show up, we cannot be a hammer.
Yes.
Every time that we walk in the room.
Yeah, most definitely. Multiple exit strategies. The idea there is to maximize your return on your marketing spend, your return on ad spend.
Right.
If I only can do one thing, then I'm not going to maximize, right? That's a bad business practice. Nich, I'm so grateful for you, man. I think if you're an agent or you're an investor who is going direct to seller, and you need to generate leads at a price that is not going to break your bank, you need to go check out leadminingpros.com. See Nich's service, see what he's doing. You've heard him here. The guy is just incredible in terms of being as invested in your success as you are. And it's awesome, man. I'm grateful for you to come on here to leadminingpros.com with an S. Make sure you put the S in there. Nich is a godsend to the lead generation space. We love you, man. What do you got to leave everybody with before we sign off here?
I'll leave you guys with one little tip, because we talk so much about optimism. Okay. When I was a kid, I was raised by skeptical parents. When you're a kid, you don't understand their skepticism, because you're like, what do you mean? Everyone's safe and trustworthy, right? You don't really get that. But I found myself in my early teens being very negative. If I got called into the office, I thought I was getting expelled or suspended. Very often I did. But what I started to do is I started telling myself, how did I become positive? And one of the best ways that I created this string of optimism that's really affected my life is every time I was going into a situation and I had a negative thought, I combated it with an equally as positive thought. Okay. So if I'm like, oh my God, what if I get fired? Oh, well, what if I get a raise? Oh my God, what if she doesn't like me? Well, what if she kisses me? Right. So it's like everything I did, I decided not to latch on to only the negative side. So what happened over time was I started realizing that the positive thing was always true and the negative thing was hardly ever true. So then it's actually hard for me to be negative now, because I have all these case studies of how much more positivity works. And I'm just ending with this tip because we talk so much about our perspective and our optimism and how that affects our outcome. So if you're finding yourself as a skeptical person, just try being friendly with yourself. And if you have a negative thought, just have a positive one. Doesn't mean you focus on it, but make sure you're combating that and you're not just letting the negative thoughts like punch you in the face 15 times a day. And so it's like, make sure you're letting some of that optimism in there and then watch what happens to your life. So I figure that's a great thing to end on with all
that. Man, I love it, dude. Thought swapping negative with positive and just, it's so powerful, not just in your business, but your whole life, man. Hey, thanks for coming on. We'll see you next time on the Florida Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast.